Welcome to Footprints in the Market. It is the very last episode of the first season of our new webinar, and I just wanted to start off by saying a massive thank you to anybody who's tuned in and listened to our series. The feedback on it has been more than we could have hoped for. It's been absolutely fantastic. So we're really happy that we could have made an impact within the industry, and that we have given marketeers some valuable content that they can use as golden nuggets in their career moving forward. I also wanted to say a huge thank you to all the speakers who've appeared on this very first season. It's been absolutely phenomenal to get the calibre of people involved in the very first season. It's been great, and we really appreciate the time taken to come on and to share your pearls of wisdom with the rest of us within the iGaming landscape. So you will notice that I don't have a guest speaker on with me today, and the reason behind that is what I thought we would do is just kind of do a roundup of the previous 7 episodes and just have some maybe further discussions around some of those key takeaways that we've had from the speakers, and cover some of the topics within that. One of the key topics for us that we certainly wanted to cover within this webinar series was emerging markets, and how affiliates and operators were making those decisions in terms of, which geographical locations that they were going to target, how they're going to do that, and the resource behind that, and the success metrics. So it was great to speak to Dan Sharon, who is the head of affiliate marketing and marketing at CBS Global, and he gave us some key advice in terms of how we do that.
Unless you've got an unlimited budget or a massive budget and a massive team, I would look at maybe just picking 2 or 3 geos, which are quite simple to manage to start with, and then once you're making money, once the growth's there, once you see the market and then everything's kicking into place, grow the business, launching a new geo, make a big deal of it, big marketing campaign. We're moving into this geo, and that's the way I would do it personally, because it is, especially if you've got a small team or you're a startup, to work in multiple geos is hard work.
I think Dan's bang on, and he's kind of hit the nail on the head with what he's saying. I think that definitely from an agency side, we've experienced that, we've kind of got affiliates and operators that are potentially biting off more than they can chew in terms of their geo-targeting. So I think the first thing that we need to understand is the first thing that we need to do is have expectations managed, and that there's a huge amount of work that goes into each of those locations. And there's a lot of thought process that needs to be behind it. There needs to be an understanding of how that's going to be resourced, and there can just be bits that people forget, and you think, this is a new emerging trend, we want to hop on it, we want to get there while everybody else is, and that's great. But if you do too much at the one time, then you run the risk of not being successful in any of those emerging markets. So you need to think about content localization. You need to think about, is your site multilingual? If it's not, how you're going to make it. Do you have a platform that is easy to manipulate, easy enough to make SEO friendly in multiple languages? There's just so many factors and so many considerations that it is one that you really need to think about carefully and map out appropriately, and think of it as effectively launching a new brand, because that is kind of what you're doing. The audience is completely different. They all respond to different marketing messages. If you're sponsoring sports teams, for example, it'll be different ones. So it's all mini businesses within one, if that makes sense. And I think that's why Dan's right. I think you need to be really clear in where you're looking to target and stick to that. Kind of carrying on with the international sort of theme We spoke to Martin Calvert, who is the marketing director of ICS Digital, and obviously they've got a fantastic track record of taking operators and affiliates into other geolocations. And this is kind of what Martin had to say about maybe some of the complexities within ranking into some of those geolocations depending on your individual scenario.
Yeah, I think, for operators, there's certainly plenty of platforms that are just not flexible for SEO full stop. And that's, doubly difficult when it comes to trying to localize things when you might not have full control over the interface. If it's some white label type setup, you might not be able to even customize the language easily, and if you do, it might be very out of the box type stuff, so it doesn't really give you any edge over anybody else using that platform.
Yep.
So then you've got to think, how do I create content around that? Is that easy to do?
I think Martin's made a really valid point surrounding that in terms of some of the operator brands that are potentially, using a white label platform provider. I think that there can be limitations and restrictions that you need to map out prior to any further geo-targeting, and kind of getting a handle on that and understanding what those restrictions mean and how it can impact more localised SEO and what you can do to navigate that. And again, it varies from platform to platform. If you're like a standalone brand, then things obviously can be different if you have your own developers and everything like that in-house. But for a lot of operators who are utilising another platform provider, you really kind of need to look into what you can do and what you can't. And it could be that what you need to do is, as Martin kind of says, think of more out-of-the-box strategies. Could be with SEO or overall marketing in terms of maybe sponsorship, PR, that kind of thing, to actually kind of get your brand out there within those locations that you're looking to target. It could be the SEO is not the right route for that, depending on the platform. It also may be that you want to then think about the platform that you are using, or think about how you're developing within that and make those kind of choices based on where you're trying to target and where you kind of see your brand going. Sticking with the operator theme just now, we touched base with Adam Gaskell, who is the UK marketing head for Kindred Group, and what we really wanted to do was kind of get some conversations going surrounding, the sponsorships that those guys have going with 32 Riding Unibet. Obviously, being from Glasgow, we had a particularly strong interest in their partnership with Rangers FC. Obviously, their front of shirt sponsors there, with a partnership that spans now 10 years after the latest deal that they've just signed. But we were also really, really keen to explore how they'd been using the sort of 0% mission and responsible gambling messages within those partnerships to create really solid, safer gambling messaging throughout their marketing. So this is what Adam had to say on that.
Gambling obviously is always under the microscope, and I think that as an industry, as a collective, the work that has been done across the board over the past sort of five or so years, maybe even longer, has sort of shown that we are willing to provide a much safer environment for customers to have their entertainment on our sites and publicise that a little bit more. And it is, given how big football is, it can be quite hard to paint that picture. But I feel like we've done a really good job. We obviously have a percentage of our advertising now which promotes safer gaming tools and the 0% mission. We have it on our LED as well at football games now. I think we have 25-30% of our advertising dedicated to safer gaming. So, we're really making sure that what we put in front of people is effective in terms of safer gambling.
I think there's a couple of pieces to that it'd be kind of great to delve into a little bit more. I think first is that I think it was really creative and innovative what the guys at Kindred have done in their 0% mission. I think that it only does our industry a lot of good to have that kind of safer gambling message at the forefront of these campaigns, and also the level of transparency that we've seen from Kindred on that, I think has been fantastic too. So obviously they're really clear, and the reports that they reveal in terms of how far they're getting with their 0% mission, so that there are no players, that are on their websites that could have any issues with gambling. And second of all, I think that focal point on things being a true partnership is really critical to the success of sponsorships in general, and it isn't something that's just potentially, a vanity sponsorship of this is an SBL team or an APL team. Obviously the front shirt will be changing for that shortly, and we want to get our logo out there. I think that much like anything, I think you're going to get much more success when you work collectively and collaboratively to make not just a difference with their advertising campaigns as well, but also to have those common goals achieved. I think Adam gave a great example in terms of the team talks with Rangers and what the guys were doing there, and I think to support those types of initiatives, I think will only go a great way, not only doing something that's community focused, but it'll also go a long way in terms of their relationship with the clubs, because they're showing an interest in a lot of the things that they're doing. They've got that social impact at the forefront of their minds, and it'll go a long way to them wanting to give back too, so that there's like a mutually beneficial sponsorship partnership, rather than just this shopping list approach of you can have this is the fee and boom, and that's it. I think when you have partnerships that are more collaborative, then you are more likely to get some great activation ideas and get them executed effectively. I think moving on from that, but still kind of keeping in line with the sponsorship side of things, we spoke to Jamie Mitchell. He is the commercial director of Game Changing Media, which is a sister company, actually, a Digital Footprints, where we are solely focused on sports marketing and sponsorships and getting those activations right and kind of getting those partnerships right that we were kind of talking about with Adam. So Jamie's kind of background is he was a professional footballer, played for Scottish Premier League teams, and he can give us a little bit of an insight as to what it's like from a player perspective, as well as now what it's like from that commercial and marketing perspective.
Not much has changed since I played, so the commercial teams and everything seems to be exactly the same as when I played. It seems surprising to me that the football world and the sports world, when a lot of it is to do with we need money, we need different income generators coming in that they can't see, or some of them struggle to see and maybe take the blinkers off a wee bit, that the opportunity is there if they used a specialist sporting agency, not only the iGaming world but in general marketing as well.
I think it was really interesting to hear that. Probably won't go into the amount of years it's been since Jamie's played, but obviously a wee while ago he's seen that nothing's changed in that commercial landscape, and that's kind of part of what we are trying to do differently as a specialist sporting agency, to make sure that there is that mindset shift, so that these commercial opportunities don't solely lie within trackside advertising boards and programme adverts and all that kind of stuff, where there's limited reach, but we are more creative with their activations, so we can actually get some really serious brand building done, but also so that we're able to measure the impact of those. And I think that's a key thing. I think that what we really need to do as an iGaming industry and as marketing in the whole is make sure that we're really making data-driven choices. So using those digital analytics to understand what's working, to understand where we need to improve, and make those proactive changes so that we're constantly improving on what we're doing. We also had the pleasure of speaking to Niamh Gallagher, who is their marketing manager at Mindway AI. Niamh's got like a wealth of experience within the industry, and it was actually really interesting to hear her thoughts, both on obviously how they market Mindway AI, but on, you know, marketing the industry as a whole.
The industry as a whole just comes under fire so much. And I think, you know, the general public aren't really aware of what goes on in the background in terms of industry fines, you know, restrictions for advertising, you know, the fact that there is gambling regulators. I think a lot of people just wouldn't really know that. So there's, I think, a lot to be done around education, not just for operators' own player base, but for the wider public as well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think there is a lot to be done in terms of educating the general public on what we're trying to do as an industry and on our safer gambling initiatives, so that they are completely aware that what we're trying to do is make sure that it is an environment that's safe for everyone. And I think operators like Kindred are, you know, doing a really, really good job in helping us do that. And I think from an industry perspective, to have more affiliates and operators really, really pushing those messages out there could potentially change that narrative and to change those negative connotations that are attached to the online gambling industry as a whole, and kind of create more fruitful partnerships across the board. Obviously, we've covered the B2C and the agency side of things quite a lot when we've been talking about marketing based on the guests that we've kind of ran through there. But marketing from a B2B side of things within iGaming can be a completely different kettle of fish for obvious reasons. So we actually also spoke to Neve about the kind of content that resonates with her specific audience and how she includes that as part of her overall marketing strategy.
Case studies are always successful. You know, people want to hear what's going on and, you know, the real kind of practical results as well, so that, you know, people can derive value from that as well. But I think, and this was something that we always tried to get when I was working as a conference producer, was actually the pain points. So from both sides as well. So maybe, you know, what we find challenging as a supplier, but also obviously what our clients find challenging, and doing the research and having the well-rounded research as well. I think from, you know, we work with operators of all kinds across different verticals and across the globe as well. So you're going to have different nuances in what their challenges are, depending on that.
Do you know what? I think that's absolutely marketing at its best, really, isn't it? It's finding the problem and then providing a solution for that and being able to communicate that effectively with your target audience. And I think everybody responds well to a real life story. Everybody can relate to that within that space. So if you're saying that this is a problem that we were presented with, this is how we fixed that, you know, that's great content to have. And that's something that we will find other operators, other affiliates will be able to say, do you know what, actually that's an issue that we've got and we can really use that solution. So I think that's a really clever way of getting your product across, and especially given obviously the product that Mindway AI is and the service that they're providing. Again, that's only something that can be beneficial to iGaming as a whole, never mind the individual operators that they are working with. We also sat down with Michael Baker Mosley, who is the CMO of IGP. Obviously, he's marketing a product to the iGaming industry as well, and more of a B2B level than a B2C. And we kind of talked about, you know, conferences and the importance of that. And I think it was a kind of common theme with everybody that was on this season in terms of as an industry as a whole and the type of environment it is. It is quite different to area that, you know, you've probably worked in before, and that it is really, really close knit, and it is really helpful, and it is really friendly, and conferences do act as a hub for that. So Michael kind of went on to tell us how they utilise that.
Conferences are sort of, to a certain degree, mini strategies, marketing strategies all in one. You know, it's the place where you build brand, generate leads, and convert people. I don't think there's any part of the any other marketing tool that does it so effectively as conferences. But I think, you know, we definitely see the conferences as an opportunity to bring everything else to life. the marketing campaigns, the content we do, the articles we write, the emails we send out. I think we know when we're doing a good job and we have a good conference.
I think, from a B2B and even an agency side, absolutely conferences are a main focal point for the marketing that we do, not only for ourselves but for our clients too. I think that when we have any discovery sessions with service providers within the iGaming space, conferences are always a key marker and a key date set in place, and there are specific KPIs and objectives that they're looking to get from that. So a lot of the marketing ties into the lead up of those, what we're doing in time for those, stands that are there, the marketing collateral that's there. And it's also good to create a wee bit of a spectacle at the conferences from a social media and digital pickup point. So I think that to have that as a focal point is 100%, the right way to go. And I think not only from an acquisition perspective, but from a retention perspective too. We talk a lot about client feedback and being reactive to that. So because obviously we're in an industry where we're lucky enough that geography has no bounds and a lot of conversation can be had via Skype and Teams and, Telegram or whatever, we do have that opportunity to all meet at central locations. And although people can always say it's very conference heavy, there is always one going on, I think that there really needs to be, and I think that and that's exactly the reason why. It's a place where you can meet your clients, get some feedback, and make any necessary changes to what you're doing with either the marketing of your product or actually the product itself. We were also really, really lucky to have Adam Azor, who is the Executive VP in Global Marketing for Sportradar. And he was on our very first episode, which was fantastic. So I just want to say a special thank you to you, Adam, because you obviously allowed us to make our mistakes early on with you. So Adam gave us some great advice in terms of how he uses the principles of marketing for Sportradar within this space.
Marketing is very simple. Right message, right audience, right time. And it is about making the right choices that drive that. Do your research, understand your audience, and be a great marketer. Embed yourself into the business. Be close with products. Be close with commercial. Listen to people. Meet the clients. Actually speak to them. Have a conversation. I
definitely think there's a couple of elements of that to pick up on. I think it was very, very clear from any of the conversations that I'd had with Adam that his knowledge of the product that he's pushing is absolutely amazing. So when he's saying, be close with the product, I think you really, really need to be. You really need to understand the mechanisms of it, how it works, what problems it solves, and how it can make somebody else's life easier. And I think those things can be taken for granted. It can be oversimplified, but I think that's really where we need to be at. And the kind of second thing you'd obviously mentioned was, speaking to the clients and kind of being close with them as well. And I think that's something that potentially is often given to the business development team and the customer relations team, but also it is critical that marketing's involved in that as well, because otherwise how can we get that messaging right if we don't know what the pain points are, if we don't know what's positive, if we don't know what's negative? How can we really outlay the messaging that we really need to that will resonate with them and turn them into our clients of the future? So we've ran through kind of some of the key messaging within that, but as I say, there's obviously individual episodes for each of those key speakers, and feel free to delve a little bit deeper into each of the topics. And we've got all of those episodes available on our website. They're also featured on SBC. We want to say a big thank you to them as our publishing partner to get those out. And listen, if you want to get involved in season 2, please feel free to get in touch.